Assalamu alaikum, this is Dr. Mona El-Idrisi, author of The Muslim Narcissist. Today's podcast is about how to move on from the anger you feel after experiencing narcissistic abuse. Many people come to me asking me how they can move on from the pain and anguish of being a victim of narcissistic abuse. And when they have gone to other therapists and Islamic scholars, then they would normally tell them to try and forgive that person, try and forgive the narcissist for what they put them through, and try and, heal and move on. However, this is almost impossible for someone who's been through so much abuse, for them to forgive the narcissist and move on when they can't even forgive themselves for being in that position and becoming a victim to the narcissist. So today I'm going to go through some steps that people can take in order to heal and move on from narcissistic abuse. And it has been structured in a way that is more practical for people to understand and more practical for people to follow. So the first thing that we must acknowledge in this process is that narcissists do not give people closure. So if a narcissist has put you through such terrible abuse, you can never expect a genuine apology from them. They may do that during the hoovering phase when they come back to try and get back into your life, or to try and stop you from applying for a divorce or you leaving the relationship. You might get a fake apology here or there. They might even fake cry. They will do what it takes to keep that narcissistic supply, that fuel and those benefits that you give them. However, when the relationship is over, especially if you're the one to walk away, and maybe even more so when they are the ones to walk away, because during the discard phase, they usually leave their victims very confused and very anxious about why the narcissist walked away from them when they did everything that they could possibly do to keep that relationship going and to please the narcissist and to do everything that the narcissist wanted. So when the narcissist feels that there is no more fuel that they can obtain from their victim, they will go through the horrible discard phase. Now, the discard phase is always very traumatic for a narcissist's victim, and it usually comprises of them saying hurtful things, horrible things, such as, "You've never done anything for me," "I hate you." They may say things like, "I never loved you. I never liked you from the beginning. I married you because of my family. I married you because I felt sorry for you. I married you because I felt forced to marry you." All of that comes up in the arguments that are very close to the discard stage. Now, during the discard stage, they will usually just disappear. However, in the lead up to the discard phase, during the arguments that you have with them, all this bitterness and hateful words they'll come out. And it is these arguments and it is these words that the victims hear that traumatize them for a really long time, and they find it very difficult to get over. So a lot of men have said that the women that they sacrificed their lives for, who they gave up so much for, and whether it's financially, whether it's socially, whether it's moving to another country, whatever it is that the men have done for these women, the women have turned around and have acted like those men have never done anything for them. And actually, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that the worst of women are those who are nakirat al-ashir. Nakirat al-ashir are those who are never grateful for what the good men do for them. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ said that this is one of the worst traits, and it's a trait of a narcissistic woman to turn around and say to a man that you've never done anything for me, and shows no gratitude for that, when he in fact has done so much for her. And the reason why the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, he said that this was such a horrible trait to have, is because of the trauma that it can put a man through, because a man does go out of his way to do things for a woman that he loves. So when a woman throws that back in his face and he hears that, oh, I hate you, I never loved you, I never wanted you, I've never been attracted to you. When he hears those words after doing so much for a woman, it can completely break him. And that is why the Prophet Muhammad, he said that the majority of women in the hellfire will be among these types of women who say these things to their husbands who have done so much for them. Now, the same applies to women. There are also so many men who are ungrateful to the women who have served them all their lives and who have been there for them and who have done so much for them and sacrificed so much for them. They will turn around and they will say, you never did anything for me, you are useless, you are nothing like this person, you are not like these women, you don't look like this, you don't act like this, you're embarrassing. All these kinds of bitter words will come out in these arguments, and they make victims feel so worthless. And it is that feeling that they get that they really struggle to get over. And that feeling of worthlessness turns into anger. It turns into anger because they become so annoyed at themselves for actually doing all that for the narcissist, for actually being there for the narcissist and loving the narcissist and taking care of the narcissist. That anger comes from themselves towards themselves. And many victims in that particular moment don't understand that the anger that they feel is more towards themselves and not the narcissist. Because at the end of the day, the narcissist is the narcissist. That is who he or she is. They're narcissistic in their personality, so it is expected from them to act like that. That is their reality. That is their reality that the codependent person who is their victim cannot fully comprehend. They cannot fully comprehend. They are in constant denial of this person being the monster that he or she is. And for that reason, they feel so angry at themselves because they don't want to believe that the narcissist is such a terrible person and that they've been fooled all this time or that they've been strung along all this time. So the codependent will often feel, like deep hate, deep self-hate, deep self-anger, because they feel like they're the problem. They are the problem, that the narcissist hates them and that the narcissist wants to leave them and that the narcissist is so rude and disrespectful to them. They feel even worse about themselves because if they didn't feel lovable before, now they definitely don't feel it now. And they hate themselves even more for not being lovable, for not being worth the narcissist hanging around for. And this is the type of anger that many people spend many years not being able to get over, because they are unable to separate the reality of who the narcissist is and what they have been through. So when I have my counselling sessions with clients, the first thing I do is acknowledge that they've been through this situation, and to understand and to make them understand that there are two different realities here. You've got the reality of the narcissist and you've got the reality of what you have been through as a victim. And so the first stage of getting over the anger of the narcissistic discard is to acknowledge all the horrible things that the narcissist has done. And sometimes I ask my clients to write down all the things that the narcissist did to them that didn't feel good. And that would usually include the gaslighting, it will include the shaming, the projection, triangulation if they were cheating, disrespect, not respecting their family, isolating them from people. I ask the client to write all of these points down so that they can start to recognize all the patterns in behavior that they had tolerated for so long. And then we move on to educating the client about narcissism. Now, the first step to healing is always educational. It's always found in knowledge. And so if you can take the time to research and understand what NPD is, what narcissistic personality disorder is, what codependency is, and what empathy is, then you will start to make sense of the situation that you are in. And I found that many people during the educational phase started to actually relate to many behaviors that the narcissist was portraying as being narcissistic behavior. And it's actually more comforting to know that this is who they are, rather than what was it that I did wrong for the narcissist to act like that, for the narcissist to be like that. So the first step is to educate yourself about narcissistic personality disorder. You need to read about it. You need to understand where it comes from. And this is exactly why I wrote the book, The Muslim Narcissist. The Muslim Narcissist book will tell you everything that you need to know about narcissistic personality disorder, codependency, and empathy from an Islamic psychological perspective and from the current cultural society that we're in. So it's really important. I wrote it for that reason. I wrote it so that it can become a vital tool in helping people to heal from narcissistic abuse. So please, 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 if you haven't got a copy of that, please grab a copy, because it will really help you in the first stage of healing with all the educational knowledge that's in there. The second stage would be to understand who you are as a person, right? So you need to figure out whether you're a codependent or an empath. Now, empaths react differently to narcissistic abuse. They tend to walk away earlier on when they're disrespected, whereas codependents, they tend to stay for a long time regardless of any disrespect that they're going through. So it's very important to acknowledge and to know which one you are of the two. Are you a codependent or are you an empath? And again, the book will help you with that. It will help you to identify which one you are. Once you identify which one you are, you need to start learning about yourself. You need to start learning about why you've attracted narcissists into your lives, why you're drawn to narcissists, why you tolerate abuse, why you find it okay to make excuses for the narcissist, why you feel you can't live without the narcissist, why the narcissist leaving is breaking you. All of these questions need to be answered in order for you to be able to move on. If they're not answered, you will never understand why the narcissist did what he or she did, and you will always attract the same people again. They'll always come into your life like a wash, spin cycle. You'll finish with one narcissist and you'll get into a relationship with another, because they're always looking for vulnerable victims coming out of tragic relationships. They're always on the lookout for them because you're vulnerable. And if you're not aware of who you are and the disorder that you have, you will always find yourself in constant cycles with them. And you will start to blame yourself. You'll think, well, yeah, I'm not lovable. I'm someone who people don't respect. I'm someone who people don't like. I'm always ending up with people who don't treat me nicely. There must be something true about that. There must be something that I'm missing about myself. Why is it that people hate me? Why is it that people don't want to treat me well? And that usually comes from you tolerating narcissistic abuse again and again and again, because you don't feel that you deserve better treatment, and you don't feel you don't see the reality of the situation. You don't see it that it's because you haven't healed, you're still attracting the same people. But because you attract the same people, you start to confirm within yourself that you are indeed not a nice person. You're not someone who's deserving of love. You are someone who's deserving of this bad treatment. So in order to heal and move on, it's so important for you to understand who they are and then who you are. So what happens after this stage is that once you understand why you are the way you are, why you've attracted these people into your lives, why you've tolerated this abuse, you can now understand that it wasn't done from a conscious mindset. You didn't actively look for someone to treat you badly. It's because you have a disorder it's programming from childhood that has attracted these people into your lives, and people, and you've been drawn to these people. So when you have gone through traumatic experiences, so for example, for a man, once he's done he's done so much for his family, his wife, his children, and his wife is turning around and constantly asking for a divorce. Every time they have an argument, she tells him how pathetic he is. She tells him that he's not a man, that I want a divorce, I want a divorce, I want a divorce. This breaks a man. This will break a man if he doesn't understand that she's a narcissist. And this is what narcissists do. They constantly threaten to leave you. They constantly threaten you with taking children away from you because they need you to comply with their demands. And they don't necessarily want to leave you during those arguments when they say to you, oh, if you're a man, then divorce me. It's just a threat. It's just a threat to keep you in line so that you just go back to being a good man and just complying with everything that she wants you to do. Women do this as well. Men do this as well to women when they say, I'm going to divorce you. If you don't stop doing this, I'm going to divorce you. I'm going to divorce you. Again, it's threats, empty threats that people will throw out to scare their victim because they know that the victim really doesn't want that person to leave. They don't want the narcissist to leave the relationship. They are so trauma bonded to them. They are so addicted to them. They have been made to feel worthless without them, that threats like this of divorce and walking away will terrify a codependent. With an empath has the ability to walk away and won't accept, empty threats, but a codependent will be terrified at the thought of the narcissist leaving them because to them it's their fault. It's their fault that, the narcissist will be leaving because of me. And when the narcissist finally does leave, who blames? Where's the blame put? The blame is always put on the codependent. Even when the narcissist discards the codependent, the narcissist will always remind them and will be sure to tell them that it was your fault. They will always say, if it wasn't for you, we would still be together. If it wasn't for you, our life would have been fine. If it wasn't for you, the children wouldn't be from a broken home. If it wasn't for you, we could have had a family. That's what narcissists do. And that trauma and that blame, the burden of carrying that blame is what keeps a lot of codependents in a lot of depression for a long time. So the second step would have to be forgiving yourself. You have to forgive yourself as the victim for being a victim. You have to forgive yourself for not knowing what NPD was. You have to forgive yourself for not knowing what codependency was, what empathy is. What's the difference between codependency and empathy? You have to forgive yourself for being ignorant of your Islamic rights, being ignorant of all this important information about how people behave and psychology, and none of us knew this. Many of us have to go through traumatic experiences to understand and to learn it. And sometimes it's just in human nature. You have to taste the bitter apple to appreciate the sweet apple. Allah has to put us through these experiences so that we learn, and we move on. But how would we know if we don't go through a traumatic, painful experience that is there to teach us a lesson? Allah has sent it to us to teach us a lesson. And so we have to forgive ourselves for not knowing. Allah does not expect us to carry that blame because He sent the lesson to us. He sent it to us so that we can learn. He knows that we don't know. He knows we don't know who this narcissistic person really is. And He knows that we don't have the knowledge to be able to exit this toxic situation and to exit everything that we've been through. So Allah has to put us through this experience so that we wake up. We wake up, we learn about what we've been through, we make sense of it, and we move on. This is the reason why Allah sends us trials and tests. It's not to break us, it's to teach us. So if you don't forgive yourself for the ignorance that you were in, then it'll be very difficult for you to go on to the next steps of healing. You have to acknowledge that I didn't know anything about narcissists. I didn't know anything about my situation. And now that I know, I can make sense of what I've been through. Okay, Now I can see why I was a prime target for the narcissist. Now I can see how that narcissist manipulated me. Now I can see why I was drawn to the narcissist. And now I don't want that. I don't want that anymore. I've learnt that lesson and I want to move on. So at this stage, most people can't forgive the narcissist, but you can forgive yourself. You can forgive yourself for not knowing, instead of hating yourself and beating yourself up about it. Because when Allah sends us a lesson, you're defeating the purpose by doing that to yourself. By beating yourself up and not seeing what Allah truly wants you to see is defeating the purpose of the lesson. And what will happen if you don't learn from that lesson, and if you're beating yourself up about it, you're getting depressed over it, and you're hating yourself even more over it, Allah He will be forced to send you another lesson until you learn, until you finally wake up. And this is why so many people are seen going into relationships and each one is worse than the one before. So you can start off with someone who's a minor narcissist and you still don't learn, you still end up falling for the same type of woman or man, and they're slightly worse. You still don't learn, you get discarded, and then that person goes into another relationship with a narcissist and that narcissist is even worse. Why do you think they get worse? They get worse because you haven't learned the lesson, and Allah has to up the dose a little bit. He has to increase the pain dose until you wake up. Until you wake up. And Allah doesn't want to do that to you. He wants you to learn the first time. And this is what my book is here for. This is what therapists are here for. This is what counselors are here for, and what YouTube is here for. It's there to help you. But a lot of codependents don't want to listen. They want to constantly live in that denial, which is, no, I've never been abused. I've always been the problem. The narcissist was right. I'm useless. I'm a terrible partner. That's what the narcissist wants you to feel. Being in that stage of denial is not going to help anyone, especially you. So the best thing you can do for yourself in the healing stage is to acknowledge that you were ignorant and that you had a lesson to learn and knowledge to pick up on, right? And after this, you have to acknowledge that you have a boundary issue. So the majority of narcissistic abuse cases, they are rooted in a lack of boundaries. So if you have respect boundaries, if you know how to start placing them into your life, that will be the first step in the healing journey so that you can stop narcissists from entering your life. Narcissists love people who don't have boundaries or have very weak boundaries that they can break. Narcissists will always test your boundaries. They'll push you and push you and push you until you break your principles for them, until you break your morality for them, until you break your self-respect and self-esteem for them. They will always test you. Now, if a narcissist happens to come into your life, he's a covert or she's a covert narcissist, and you can't really pick up on whether they're narcissists or not, then what you will notice them do is test you. So they might throw an inappropriate joke or an inappropriate comment. They might sugarcoat it, but it will be a personal attack towards you. They may say something offensive about other people to see how you react. They will always test you to see how you react to offensive things and things that are disrespectful. Now, if you brush it under the carpet, they will just keep testing you, and those tests will get stronger and stronger and stronger until they reach a point where they believe that I need to be in a relationship with this person because this person is going to allow me to walk all over them. And that's how they operate. If they see that you're someone with low self-esteem, low self-respect, low boundaries, no boundaries, then you are the prime target for a narcissist. And it's so important that you start working on your boundaries. And I suggest that you go to a therapist or a counselor for this if you can. And if you can't afford it, then just watch. There are so many YouTube videos about how to establish boundaries in your life so that when you're tested by narcissists, you pass that test. They don't get far. They get past maybe the first obstacle, and they'll find that there's a block. They can't they can't disrespect you anymore. You've put your foot down and you're not accepting it. So establishing boundaries is incredibly important. Now, the step after that would be to learn from the mistakes. Okay? So an exercise that I usually give to my clients would be to write down all the red flags that you now recollect from the first time you met the narcissist. And you can do this with various narcissists you've met in your life, or the most significant one who had a really traumatic impact on your mental health. So if it was an ex-wife or an ex-husband, I need you just to sit with yourself for an hour or two in complete silence and just think really hard about all the things that you'd ignored. All the things that you'd ignored in their behavior and attitudes before you married them. What did they do that made you feel uncomfortable? What did they do to make you feel disrespected? What did they ever do to make you feel unsure? What did they do to make your gut instinct kick in and say to you, something's off? I need you to write them down. Once you write all those points down, you need to write them down on paper, because when you write things down, your brain remembers them in a better way. So write them down and always remind yourself of those red flags that you had ignored, because usually you'll find that those red flags are those that really blew up later when you married them. Those red flags came to chase you after you married that person. Those things that you thought were minor turned into major things. So for example, inappropriate jealousy, unnecessary drama, unnecessary problems, unnecessarily going through your phone, unnecessarily cutting you off from your friends, making a problem every time you went out with your friends. All of these things, a lot of people ignore in the beginning. Demands, financial demands, being very disrespectful. If it wasn't for you being a nice guy, I have other options. I've got this, I've got that. My family, from a wealthy family, I'm accepting you because you're this and because you're that. You're not to the standard of my family. My family don't like you. My family don't accept you. However, I am going to accept you because I love you. All of these things are red flags that people fall for. They see it as romance. They see it as love. So I want you to write down those red flags that you ignored and then connect them to the problems that you had during your marriage or during your relationship. And you will find that they all link together. They all link together. And when you find that they all link together, you will be able to address those red flags with the next person. So when you do see those red flags again, you will run for your life, because now you've actually spent some time focusing on those red flags and actually studying them and linking them to what happened after you actually committed to that person or after you married that person. So when you study those red flags, you're more likely to see them later. If you ignore them, if you don't want to think about it, if it's too painful to think about, then you will definitely fall into that same trap again later. You have to acknowledge and write down all the red flags that you had ignored in various people. And the last part of moving on would be to start rebuilding your life. Rebuild your life. Rebuild your connection with Allah. It's so important for you to get back on track with your connection with Allah, because a lot of these narcissists, they will damage your connection with Allah. They will damage your connection with Islam. You will find that you just don't pray anymore. You'll find that you just can't be bothered to be a decent practicing Muslim anymore. You think, what's the point? What's the point? I've already been through so much. I've already committed so many major sins with this person, whether you've married them or not. I've already done X, Y, Z. What is the point in being a practicing Muslim now? How can I get back to that? How can I get back to my faith? How can I get back that person who I used to be? You need to work on it. There's no magic spell that you can take for life to just go back to being lovely and rosy and better, or back to the way it was. It doesn't work like that. It's a path of self-discovery again. You need to go on that journey of self-discovery. You need to go on that healing journey. Allah wants you to take that healing journey. And you need to start by rebuilding yourself. You rebuild yourself with the intention that I'm going to be so much better than I used to be. I'm going to be a better man, a better woman. And I am going to make the efforts to increase my iman and become a better Muslim again by attending charity events, go to Islamic lectures, watch loads of YouTube lectures. There are some stunning lectures by, Yasser Qadi, by Umar Suleiman, by Yasmin Mujahid. There are some really beautiful Islamic lectures that make you feel so much iman, that make you feel that you could be so proud to be Muslim. You have to take the initiative of keeping the company of those who are good empathic Muslims and increasing your iman and increasing your Islamic knowledge. So you need to make that effort to be able to do that and try and get back into the routine of praying again. You have to. The healing journey will not be made easy unless Allah helps you with it. So you need to pray, to ask Allah for guidance. You need to ask Allah for help. You need to ask Allah to make this healing journey easy for you. How are we going to do that if we're not relying on Allah, on His support? Everyone will abandon us in this life, but Allah will not. So getting back and establishing your prayers again, this will make you a powerful person. The narcissist hates to see you as a powerful person with iman. If you read my book, you'll understand why. They want to destroy your iman. They want to destroy everything that's good in you. They want to leave you broken and empty. Get back on that horse and rebuild that iman. Because you can. I've seen so many people do it. Alhamdulillah, I managed to do it. If I can do it, and if my sisters can do it, and if my friends can do it, and if my clients can do it, everyone can do it. I have seen people who have hit rock bottom. They have been so suicidal, but alhamdulillah, with therapy and with help, they managed to go from being suicidal to being one of the best practicing Muslims I know. And it happens. So don't lose hope. Don't lose faith that you'll never be able to get it back. I'm telling you, I've got clients who have been suicidal and who are now living happy lives. Their iman is back on track. Their connection with Allah is strong. And they feel powerful. They feel empowered. They feel brilliant. It can happen. You just need to put the work in. They put the work in. You need to put the work in too. And it's not just the religious side to things. You also need to go back to the things that you used to love doing. If you love painting, going to the gym, traveling, horse riding, football, whatever it is that you love doing, go back and do them. And explore new things to do as well. Explore new things. Start a business. Write a journal. Write a diary. Make new friends. Go to events. Go to networking events and meet new friends. I don't ever advise people to jump back into meeting people for marriage and dating and being on apps and everything, because if you're not fully healed, you'll still find yourself being attracted to narcissists online. So you do need that period of at least a year. I would give it a year for you to really get your self-esteem back up and really get that joy back into your life and really get that confidence back. Because when you have those and you start to become comfortable with your own company, you start to enjoy your own company, that is when you will feel more reluctant to let anyone into your life who you feel could ruin it. So if you're in a good place in life where you're doing things that you enjoy and you're surrounding yourself with good friends and family members, and someone comes along into your life and they feel a bit off, you will not risk it. You will be a lot less likely to risk letting anyone into your life who is going to take away any of your joy. However, if you're not healed, if you're still, if you're still in the swamp, if you're still struggling to get out of bed in the morning and a narcissist comes and love bombs you, or says a few nice things here and there and charms you, you're going to get sucked back into it because you have nothing to lose. You feel that you have nothing to lose. So it's very important to be in a very good place in your life before you consider people for marriage again. Because anyone who displays any sign of disrespect or problematic behavior, you will be more likely to say, I'm sorry, this is not, my life is good, I'm happy in my life, I've got great friends and family, and I do things that I love. You are not coming into my life to ruin this for me. I don't need your stress, I don't need your drama. So you have to be in a place where you're doing good things in your life. You will find things go up and down. You might experience the death of a loved one. You may experience a financial crisis. You may experience various things during this period, during the healing period. But it's very important to maintain, to understand that these are all trials from Allah. All trials from Allah. The best warriors are those who have been through the worst wars. The more wars a warrior goes through, the more of a champion he becomes, because he becomes more resilient. Allah's best soldiers were sent because they were champions. The prophets, they went through the worst. They went through the worst trials, the worst tribulations. Why? Because Allah needed them to be champions. They went through so much in their lives. People always ask, if they were the most beloved to Allah, then why did Allah allow them to, watch their wives die and watch their children die and watch their people die and, put them through war and famine and poverty? And why did Allah do that to them? It's because they are champions. These people, these prophets that Allah sent, were so resilient, were so strong in their iman, were so strong in their faith. They knew that this life is temporary. This life is so short, and what's to come is even better. They had a goal and they strove towards it. Regardless of whatever obstacles came in their way, they kept going. And that's what made them so special. This is why the prophets are so special to Allah, because no matter what Allah threw their way, they accepted it and they dealt with it and they moved on. They did not wallow in self-pity. They did not wallow in depression. Allah needed them to face those tests so that they could face people, so that they could face all sorts of people in their lives. They have a message to send to different people. They had a message of monotheism and morality that they had to give to people. And they were dealing with various people. They were dealing with psychopaths and narcissists and satanic worshippers and idol worshippers. And can you imagine how difficult it must have been to be given such a responsibility and then have to deal with all these different types of people? Allah had to put them through those trials and tribulations to make them strong, to make them learn and to make them aware and awake. And for them to understand who the hypocrites are in their societies, who are the believers, who are the disbelievers. All these trials that they went through was to show the prophets who were the hypocrites in their societies. So when you go through these trials and tribulations, if the death of a loved one happened, what does it teach you? It teaches you that life is short. It teaches you who your loved ones truly are, who are there to support you. It teaches you the beauty of having family and good friends around you. It's a reminder that death can come at any time. So there are so many lessons that we get from our trials and tribulations, but a lot of people choose to react in a negative way to them and to not take on the challenge that Allah sent us. Everyone has a choice as to how they react to their trials and tribulations. We all have a choice. We have a choice to wallow in depression and suicidal thoughts, and we allow our ego and our qareen and our evil jinn to whisper evil suicidal thoughts into our head. We allow that, or we can acknowledge that this is a part of life. This is the life of the dunya. Allah sent me this trial and I need to deal with it. I need to move on. So A lot of people get setbacks, so they're in their healing journey from narcissistic abuse, and then something like this happens, a setback happens, and then they go back to square one. So this is just a reminder that there will be obstacles that come your way. There will always be obstacles, and it's up to us to have a warrior mindset to just get through them. As difficult as they are, you've got to have that warrior mindset. And having a warrior mindset won't help if you're surrounded with the wrong people. You need to have good friends and family. You need to have a better partner. You need to have better friends who are not narcissistic. You need to have better people around you who are healed, who are empathic. And that is so important in the healing journey. Now, the last stage, this is like a bonus stage. So these are the last stages of the healing journey. The bonus stage of the healing journey is to forgive the narcissist. Now, this is usually for supernova empath level. If you don't know what a supernova empath is, you need to read the book. But it's supernova empath level, where you can get to a point where instead of hating the narcissist, you actually feel sorry for that person. You actually feel sorry for them being that way and not being able to actually experience true love, not being able to be loved by people, because they come from a bloodline of childhood trauma. You know, they got it from their parents got it from the grandparents, they got it from their great-great-grandparents. It's passed on through their bloodline. It's passed on through their genes and generations and everything, so that their parents who raised them in the same way as previous generations had raised them. And that's with, it's without love and without care and without the proper proper Islamic education that children are entitled to. And when you understand where narcissism comes from, it's in my book. I do explain, I don't attack narcissists in my book. I'm very compassionate with them, because I understand that they didn't get the best start in life. They did not get the best start in life. They did not have the right parents. They did not have caring parents. They had narcissistic parents, or they had parents who didn't care about them at all. Now, when you understand that they come from these homes, or that they were conditioned by their parents to become narcissistic. So, for example, they may have been overly spoiled by their mother. When you understand that sometimes over-spoiling a child will spoil a child, you'll understand why these people turn out to be the types of adults that they are. And once you get to supernova empath level, you can start to appreciate that actually these narcissists, they're victims too. They're victims too of their own childhood, of their own upbringing. They didn't have therapy. They didn't have counselling. They didn't have people who cared enough to look after them properly when they were young. And so they grow up with these defense mechanisms, which is abuse everyone before they abuse me. Take advantage of everyone before they take advantage of me. A lot of them were abused and sexually abused as children. So once you get to supernova empath level and you understand that they are also victims, this is when you'll be able to forgive the narcissist. Because before that, it will be absolutely impossible. It will be impossible for you to forgive the narcissist for everything that they put you through. Without going through these stages that I've just explained, you would not be able to reach this stage of being able to let go of the anger, let go of the bitterness and resentment, and just feel sorry for them. Feel sorry for them that they could never have you. Feel sorry for them that they are going to live the rest of their lives like this if they don't get healed. And you need to feel like the lucky one. Once you're in a position where you feel so grateful to Allah that you are done with the narcissist, that you are narc free, that is when you can feel sorry for the narcissist. And it will only come at the stage when you feel like this, when you feel that, alhamdulillah, I don't have that narcissist in my life anymore. And yes, I would never downplay all the abuse that they put you through. But I also believe that things can always be worse. Things can always be worse. If you manage to get out of a marriage with a narcissist and you don't have children, say alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah. That is something huge to be grateful for. Huge to be grateful for. If you got out of a marriage and the narcissist abandoned you and your children, totally disappeared, say Alhamdulillah that happened, because you don't want the narcissist in your life. Even if you have to raise your children as a single parent, Alhamdulillah, it could have been a lot worse. They could have made your life really hell. And there are so many things that you can say Alhamdulillah for if you really think of them. Think about them. Always think about what could have gone wrong. What could have been worse in my situation? What could have been worse? I have one child now from a narcissist. It could have been worse if I had two, if I had three. It would have been worse had I shared a house with a narcissist, shared assets, business assets, or been a business partner with them. It could have been worse had they destroyed me and my iman completely. It could have been worse had they done something to my family or taken horrible revenge. It can always be worse. You always have to think of what could have happened to be worse so that you're grateful. You need to be in a state of feeling grateful for the situation that you're in. You have to. Even if it feels pretty bad to you, I can promise you, you are in a better situation than someone else out there. Someone else out there has it worse. And so you need to stop beating yourself up about being in the situation that you're in, because if Allah saved you from something worse, then you have to be grateful for that. Be in a state of being grateful. And when we become grateful, we become less bitter. And we just think, Alhamdulillah, I'm just rid of that person. I don't have that person in my life anymore, causing me so much misery. If Allah has taken that person out of your life, in whatever way it was, whether you discarded them, they discarded you, they disappeared, they died, whatever it is that happened to get the narcissist out of your life, this is a blessing from Allah. You're no longer living with that person. So you have to be in a state of being grateful. And once you can elevate yourself to the state of being grateful, you will be able to forgive the narcissist. Forgive, maybe not forget, but you can forgive that person for doing what he or she did because you allowed them to. It's not because they could, it's because you allowed them to. Now, when I say that you allowed them to, again, that goes back to you being ignorant of codependency. Being ignorant of codependency, it facilitates an opening for narcissistic abuse. So when you realize that actually the power is in your hands, then you can feel a sense of empowerment because now you're in control. Now you know that you are in control of the situation and you are always in control of the situation. A narcissist cannot do anything to you unless you enable that, unless you allow that to happen. So you have to ask yourself at this stage, is it worth it that I live the rest of my life hating a narcissistic person, hating someone who abused me? They've moved on. They've got another victim now. You're the one who is damaging your mental health and physical health by not being able to let go of what they put you through because you didn't understand what happened. You didn't understand the true dynamics of that relationship. So who is it affecting? It's affecting you. You need to forgive the narcissist at that stage. It does take a while to get to that stage, but you can get to that stage where when you feel sorry for them, and everything that they've lost in their lives and everything that they could have, that's good, but they choose not to because they don't see what's good for them. They don't know how to get what's good for them. They don't know how to be good people. Once you understand that the narcissist is such a disadvantaged person, it's easy to let go. It becomes easier to let go of that pain and resentment and bitterness. Because not only do you realise that things could have been much worse, you also realise that you're powerful. You're the one in control of the situation. And you will always be in control of the situation. I will be abused as much as I allow someone to abuse me. and I will be respected as much as I allow someone to respect me. So once you get to that stage, that will be the ultimate healing. And that's taqwa. Allah wants us to get to that stage where we don't hold on to that anger and jealousy and bitterness, because sometimes people see that narc move on and love bomb someone else and they feel jealous. They feel angrier. They feel anguish that I can't believe that person's moved on and I'm in this place, I'm in this pit, I'm in depression. I can't move on with my life, and look at them. They are charming every person on the block. But that's just their coping. That's how they live. That's who narcissists are. If a narcissist has not managed to destroy your iman in Allah, if he or she has not managed to destroy your connection with Allah, they have not destroyed you. I promise you, they have not destroyed you. A narcissist will only destroy a person when they completely eradicate all faith from their heart. If you still have that faith, if you still have that love for Allah, if you still have the strength to start again, to get on your feet and start again and pray that Fajr prayer in the morning and get on with your life and trying to rebuild your life, then you are the powerful person. That narcissist has not broken you. That narcissist has not destroyed you. You need to pick yourself up, because the narcissist had you as a victim because you're strong. Now, if you want revenge, some people, they say, how do I take revenge on a narcissist? Revenge is not a part of Islam. This is not who we are. This is not what Allah wanted us to do. Because Allah knows that everyone disadvantaged in life has a reason for them being that way. Allah wants us to be compassionate towards each other as Muslims. He wants us to understand why people are the way they are. And so revenge in Islam, there are rules, there are legal rules for this. Of course, if someone murders someone, or if someone does something so terrible or commits a terrible criminal act, then there's the Sharia court to deal with that. There are courts to deal with this. But when it comes to our personal lives on this scale, it's better to leave your affairs to Allah. It's best to leave them. Don't go for revenge. Revenge will not help you. Revenge will just take away that golden ticket that Allah will give to you on the Day of Judgment because you were oppressed by someone. If you take revenge on someone, then you get that golden ticket taken away from you. Allah has a special golden ticket for you on the Day of Judgment because you are from the oppressed. Someone oppressed you. Someone violated your rights. Someone who owed you rights took them away from you, as a husband or as a wife. Now, if you go out of your way to take revenge on that person and cause physical harm or cause any type of harm, then Allah's like, well, okay, you wanted to deal with it yourself. You've got to deal with it yourself, but the golden ticket's been taken away. And there are golden tickets given to people on the Day of Judgment for oppression. Oppression is the worst criminal act that people are put under. And Allah promises those who have had their rights taken from them that Allah will give those rights to them on the Day of Judgment. All those due rights will be paid to you in golden tickets on the Day of Judgment. So don't take revenge. Leave it. Totally leave it to Allah to deal with. Allah will deal with them. Everyone gets their karma. Everyone gets their karma. If not in this life, Allah saved it for them in the next life. It's all being accumulated. They can love bomb as many people as they want. They can move on to as many victims as they want. They are accumulating so many cases against them on the Day of Judgment. It's nothing to be envious of. Nothing to be envious of. Nothing to be angry about. That's their problem to deal with and not yours. You need to move on with your life and stop allowing the narcissist to affect your future as well. They've already affected your past. They've affected your present. And now you're going to allow them to affect your future by wallowing in anger and self-pity and depression. Don't give them that power to do that. Let them do whatever it is they want to do with their lives and stop allowing them to affect you. Don't give them that power. They don't deserve that power. They're not entitled to that power. Your future is now in your hands. Your future is now in Allah's hands. So live the best life that you can. Live the best life that you can. Allah will give you the rewards for everything you did for that narcissist, everything that you did for someone with good intention to look after them, to be a good husband, to be a good wife, all of that will be paid to you in rewards on the Day of Judgment. You have to believe that, because that is what Allah promised us. So if we don't get our reward from the narcissist, which we won't, definitely won't, you will definitely get it from Allah on the Day of Judgment, because you did it with a good intention. You did it because you were giving that person their rights and their respect and good treatment. So this is very important for you to be able to move on and know that we're in a bigger picture here. We're in a bigger picture. You know, we live on a planet in the middle of the universe. There is something so much bigger than this for us. Life is so short to be crying and being depressed and suicidal over narcissistic people who don't themselves understand why they are the way they are. They don't understand. And they've given up on themselves. If they've given up on themselves, that's their problem. It's not yours. You don't need to give up on yourself as well. And if you give up on yourself, then you're effectively letting yourself down as a human being. Allah's created you to be strong. Allah created the human being to excel every other creature He has ever created before. Every other creature. He has given the human being the ability to stand back on his or her 2 feet again and rebuild and get over traumatic experiences again. Allah's given us that ability. Allah tells us in the Quran, I will not burden you with something more than you can bear. Everyone has a different threshold, benchmark for what they can and can't take. Someone who is able to take like a high level of physical pain will not be the same as someone who is unable to do that. Allah will not test people in the same way. He will test you according to what He knows you can handle. He's promised that. So if you know that, if you believe that, then you know that you're more powerful than all of this. You're more powerful than all of this. Why be depressed and angry for the rest of your life over it? Allah's given you something He knows you can handle and get over and move on from. He's not going to give you something. Allah is not unjust. He's not a tyrant. He's not going to give you something that you can't get over or you can't deal with and then punish you for it because you're unable to move on. That's not how Allah is. Allah is merciful to us. And if He's given you a trial, you better believe that you can deal with it and move on from it. Because if you don't believe that in yourself, then there's going to be no hope. You're going to live the rest of your life with no hope. So you need to reach that level of the goal. The goal from the book is to get yourself to supernova empath level where you can let it go. Let all this go, because if you keep it within you, the anger, the jealousy, the bitterness, if you keep it within you, it will eat away at your heart. It will eat away at your heart, and you won't be able to find any joy in prayers. You won't find any joy in dua. You won't find any joy in Ramadan. You won't find any joy in anything that you do in life. Well, even if they're hobbies that you used to enjoy, you won't enjoy them. You'll feel bored all the time. You'll feel frustrated all the time, because those negative emotions are eating at your heart. So please do yourself a favor and learn how to move on from your situation. Please start your healing journey by reading my book. Once you read my book, inshallah, the rest of these steps will become easier. Listen to this as many times as you need. Just follow these steps and you'll get to supernova empath level, where you will be able to see the narcissist as such an insignificant being in your life who came to teach you a very valuable lesson. And once you heal, I promise you, you will never be the same again. You will never be the same. And I'm saying that as someone who's been through it, as someone who is now counselling so many people and helping them heal. I've seen amazing transformations. It can happen if you put the work into it. So I hope this podcast has been very beneficial to you and that you've enjoyed it. Please do like the video, share the video. Give me your comments. I'd love to read your comments on what you think. And inshallah, spread the knowledge and let's just help people heal and move on and And let's just do something about this situation that a lot of people are finding themselves in. And until the next podcast, inshallah, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.